Meghan Markle arrived at the Fortune Most Powerful Women Summit in Washington, D.C. as if she were stepping into a self-curated fairytale, the modern duchess, the global humanitarian, the truth-teller. Yet, what unfolded on stage was not a moment of admiration, but one of embarrassment. Her introduction, awkward, overpolished, and reportedly crafted by Meghan herself, set the tone for a performance that quickly crumbled under the weight of her own words. This wasn't just a fumble. It was a revealing moment. The laughter and heckling she faced weren't born out of cruelty, they were a natural response to the glaring disconnect between Meghan's self-presentation and reality. She strutted into a serious forum expecting reverence, but what she got was resistance, because the act is wearing thin. For years, Meghan has built a public persona on calculated language. Every speech, every interview, every heartfelt confession is wrapped in layers of self-praise and selective storytelling. But Washington, D.C. was different. There was no royal stage, no sympathetic interview nodding along, no carefully edited docuseries. It was a live summit, filled with sharp, experienced women who could sniff out exaggeration from a mile away. And Meghan, instead of humbly engaging, resorted to the same recycled lines and self-aggrandizing anecdotes, the kind that might impress a friendly audience, but fall flat when scrutinized. The most telling part of the evening wasn't even the awkward introduction, although that in itself spoke volumes. If the interview truly read an intro Meghan had written herself, it shows just how desperately she wants to control every narrative around her. That's not empowerment. That's image management of the most brittle kind. And brittle images crack under pressure. As Meghan launched into her usual monologues, the audience's reaction shifted from polite interest to audible disbelief. Her tendency to blur fact and embellishment, what some politely call inconsistencies, but what critics more bluntly identify as lies, was on full display. She repeated claims that have long been challenged, as if saying them on an American stage would give them new legitimacy. But Washington isn't Hollywood. It's a city built on power, policy, and precision. Vague platitudes and vague personal mythologies don't land the same way there. What happened that night wasn't just a PR mishap. It was a collision between Meghan's crafted persona and the real world. She thrives in spaces where she can control the script, podcasts, documentaries, magazine profiles, carefully edited appearances. But on a live stage, stripped of filters, the cracks in the narrative become obvious. For years, Meghan has positioned herself as a woman wronged, a visionary silenced, a truth-teller whose brilliance the world has failed to appreciate. It's a compelling narrative, until it's repeated so often that it starts to sound rehearsed. At the Fortune Summit, the repetition became unbearable. She leaned on the same tired buzzwords, authenticity, voice, empowerment, but with no fresh insight to back them up. There's a difference between being inspirational and being performative. Inspirational leaders speak from experience, humility, and substance. Performative figures, on the other hand, thrive on staging their virtue. Meghan's problem is that she treats every public appearance as a stage play where she's both the star and the scriptwriter. But audiences, especially seasoned ones, eventually stop applauding when they realize they're being sold a narrative rather than being told the truth. And then there's the issue of credibility. Meghan has, on multiple occasions, told stories that have been publicly questioned or outright debunked. Instead of addressing these discrepancies, she doubles down, retelling them as if repetition will make them real. At the summit, when she slid into these familiar tales once again, it wasn't met with sympathy but with disbelief. Being laughed at on such a stage isn't just embarrassing, it's reputationally damaging. It signals that the audience no longer takes her at her word. For someone who left the royal family to find her voice, Meghan seems more committed to crafting a legend than speaking plainly. Her Washington, D.C. appearance revealed this tension in the starkest way. The world isn't short of powerful women who've overcome obstacles, but their power lies in substance, not in self-promotion. Meghan's version of empowerment often feels like a glossy brochure, beautifully designed but flimsy when you actually try to lean on it. What made the moment so significant wasn't just that Meghan faltered, it was that the room didn't play along. The heckles and laughter were not the cruelty of a hostile crowd, they were the natural reaction of people confronted with something that rings hollow. In that instant, the curtain was pulled back. Meghan Markle has long thrived on the illusion of control, controlling the narrative, the image, the questions, and even, it seems, the introductions others give her. But no amount of scripting can save someone from the truth catching up. Washington D.C. was not a hostile stage, it was simply an honest one. And on that stage, stripped of filters, Meghan Markle's performance was exposed for what it was, an act that no longer convinces. Her defenders will no doubt call it misogyny, envy, or media cruelty. But sometimes, criticism isn't a conspiracy, it's just reality refusing to bend. The heckles and laughter weren't personal attacks. They were the sound of a narrative losing its grip. Meghan walked onto that stage wanting to be celebrated. Instead, she was challenged. And that might just be the most honest reception she's received in a long time.